And I want to introduce Nut, who I had the fortune of meeting through Boundless Freedom Project. And Nut's out in California. I'm just going to read what he wrote. He's a tattoo and portrait artist, a small business owner, and a community coordinator for the Boundless Freedom Project. He also works as a consultant, mentors incarcerated youth, and volunteers with nonprofit organizations that support reentry and the incarcerated population. Mr. Vo has not always held these roles. He served 20 years in a correctional institution and was initially sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for a crime he was involved in at age 16. During his time of confinement, he took responsibility for his past and sought every opportunity to improve himself. He earned 2 associate degrees and became a certified paralegal. He volunteered to organize activity groups, led religious services, mentored at-risk youth, and trained rescue dogs. When the Supreme Court ruled that sentencing juveniles to life without parole constituted cruel and unusual punishment, he received a lifeline and ultimately earned his freedom in 2020. So that's after 20 years. Today, he is grateful and humble. Today, he is a grateful and humble contributing member of his community. He has decided to creating pathways for men and women in similar situations. He is dedicated, He is dedicated to creating pathways for men and women in similar situations through his arts and entrepreneurship. And he is our special speaker, and take it away. And welcome, Aku. And yeah, I think you're the last person who joined. And thanks everybody for being here. It's all yours, Nut. And we'll have questions after Nut speaks, but we're going to let him share his story and yeah, enlighten us. Thank you. And I know you're recovering from an illness, so I hope you're okay.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, I have a persisting cough that's it been lasting almost a month now. So my voice is so I will be interrupted by my own cough. So I apologize for that in advance. It's really odd to sit here and listen to what I wrote about myself. I actually struggle writing a thing about myself. I remember when I was in prison, I was part of a entrepreneur program, and they teach you how to write resume, how to interview for potential job when you come home, and they want you. They say the approach is you have to brag about yourself. You want to start the hook with like who I am, what I have accomplished, and I don't know if it's a culture thing or is it but I felt very shy doing that. I felt very uncomfortable doing that. It's almost like I'm an imposter, you know, boasting about myself. But they say that's how you should start, and then you should come around explaining how you get there. So that's where that introduction came from. It's just odd. I'm listening to it now. I'm like, I'm trying to relate to the person that is described. So just to give some context, I will share a little bit about myself, how I end up in prison, and how I get to where I am today. I want to just squeeze this in real briefly. So I was born in Vietnam. And when I was born, my father had left the country to come to the United States. And so I was born not knowing who my father was. I grew up in a rural area in Vietnam, in southern Vietnam. And it's very idyllic place. Kid play with water buffalo, catching fish in the rice fields, thing like that. That's very vivid to me, that type of memory. And so I remember life was really good, like very simplistic, but it's pleasant, and I have a lot of good memory. And then shortly after, we moved into an inner city. That was also the same time that we find out my father actually survived and that he become an American citizen. And now that he is working towards sponsoring us to come to America. And so I moved to the inner city. When I moved to the inner city, for me at that time is the first time I was exposed to this concept of have and have not. When I lived in the rural country, everybody worked for their own subsistence, right? So everyone pretty much equal and share thing. When I go to the inner city, it's very clear to me at that time that there are people that have a lot and people that don't, and people that were struggling. So that's where I start to formulate idea about myself. I start to formulate idea of who I am in the world, and I start to have a lot of negative perception about myself, and because of the condition that I was in. And I was generally a very shy and insecure kid, and so I don't ask questions, and I don't investigate. I just make a lot of assumption about the world, and I assume that's to be true. I make assumption about myself, and I assume that to be true as well. And of course, there are outside influences that may have caused me to think that way, but at the end of the day, it was my choice to choose if those things were true or not. So I tell myself I was inadequate because I didn't have a father. In Vietnam, socially, it's very important that you have father and mother. And to miss one make you feel very inadequate. And so there's a social judgment there. And my inability to socialize, being introverts, also make me feel very insecure and inadequate. And of course, my interaction with other kids was not pleasant. So I too, that kind of fuel my sense of insecurity. And then we learned that we were able to come to America. And for me, I felt, during that time of my life, I felt I was not part of, I was not home. I was living in Vietnam, but I feel like I was not home because I'm very isolated mentally. So I'm thinking if I come to America, and at that time, the way people in Vietnam talk about America is kind of like you win the golden ticket to Willy Wonka chocolate factory. That was how big it was. Like people perception, the way people treat you different. Oh, he's going to America. It's almost like there's a glow about you. And I remember you can feel that, and people do start to treat you differently. And so I started to feel this new sense of hope that I come to America. First, I'm going to meet my father. And to me, that's one of the major inadequacy that I have. And everything will be fulfilled. Everything will be fine. And we get to go to this country that people describe as heaven. In Vietnam, they say America is so rich that everybody equal, that nobody really steal, that crime is really low because the door is wide open. Everybody have a refrigerator, a microwave, and a TV set. Right? In Vietnam, you have a TV set, a microwave, those type of electronic, you are considered very rich, high-class people. But of course, it's true, America, everyone have that. But there's so much thing that we do not know until we know, right? So when I moved to America, when I was 9 years old, I meet my father for the first time. And we live in an apartment. And again, this idea of have and have not become very obvious to me in America. And again, nothing really changed because everything is internal. Again, I didn't investigate. I didn't have anyone to speak to or counsel. And so I feel further isolated. And shortly after my parent divorce, I struggled in school. And I found myself not really knowing where to, I don't feel the sense of belong. And I'm still looking for my sense of identity. And then I started making wrong choices. I start to learn that the only way that I can feel better is really not to think, not to internalize things, and just act out whatever I feel. And one of the first lesson I have learned how I can use violence in order to express my feeling or express what's going on internally was when I get into a fight at school when I was being bullied. And, it's funny, but I remember when I grew up coming to America, a lot of kids think that if you're Asian, you know martial art, and and so it's funny, but that's true. And so I have to fight my way, proving. I mean, I don't know martial art, but you have to. Eventually, you learn to defend yourself, and you learn that that's the only way that you can really express yourself to leave, so people that would leave you alone. And gradually, I started to be more exposed to the gang lifestyle. My older brother actually joined the gang before I did. And also at that time, I feel a conflict of being in America and trying to understand the culture of American at the same time, combine that or find a way to make it work with the Asian culture I would brought in. So in my family tradition, in most Asian family tradition, there is a very strict hierarchy in our family structure. I was the youngest child, so I have to follow. Instruction, and I can't question that. That's just my role. When I come to America, I see children have a lot of freedom, a lot of independent from their parent in a way. And I share this a lot. It's the idea of. I remember one of the children that I would be friends with. They say that my parents have to knock on the door before they ask me if they can come inside, and that idea is just outrageous to me. If I were to imply that with my parents, like you kind of have to knock on the door before you can go into my room, I will be in deep, deep trouble. And I don't even think that's like right. I shouldn't even ask for that. Like, where's my mind? But it's just this idea of the culture different, and sadly, sometimes because I took advantage of that, I started to lose respect for my parents. Because my parents in themselves are struggling to understand this culture. There are times where the role have to be reversed, where they call me to become a translator for my parent. And so as a child, I feel empowered. At the same time, I abuse that power. And I share all this thing. It didn't just come to me one day. I sat in prison and think about all this thing. Why did I become the person that I am? Those minor choices that I made to lead me to the life of crime and lead me ultimately to prison. So I joined a gang and I lived the criminal gang lifestyle. I wanted to belong. I was seeking for validation because I didn't have a strong sense of self. Deep down, I was very insecure. And every time I act out or I do things using violence, using aggression, or just being reckless, I get praise, I get recognition, and I feel empowered. And that led me to commit my crime when I was 16-year-old, and which led to young men murder, another young man paralyzed for the rest of his life, and so many people traumatized by that. And I was eventually arrested, and I went to trial, and I was sentenced to 3 consecutive life without possibility of parole. I When that happened, I just felt numb. I didn't know. I remember I was in the courtroom, and I was sitting in the courtroom, not really understanding what everyone is talking about. Although I have been in America for a long time, my English, I didn't really improve much in English because I just hang out with people of my own kind in a way. Uh, I I was ethnically isolated. I did not feel comfortable being outside of my own race, so I limit myself educationally in a way. And so I find myself being in the courtroom, being the center, I guess being the center of everything, and everybody's talking about me, deciding my fate, and I didn't really understand what they were saying or talking about. That first moment in my life where I feel truly handicapped, as if I was deaf, and I can't really express myself either. So it's kind of like I'm mute. And then, but I remember feeling that sense of disadvantage. But I didn't have the will to fight that way. I just accepted. I just figured that's just the way thing is. Sorry. And so I was sentenced to prison, and I didn't being sentenced to life without parole didn't stir the need to change for me. I just accept that for what it is, and at that moment, my mind just shifted over to survival. Like, how am I going to survive prison? This is my first prison term. I'm not a big guy, right? And so I was very afraid. So I resort to what I know. It's through violence. It's through recklessness. And I lived for the most part of my prison term that way. I was placed on a maximum security prison because of my sentence, and I survived. I got into a lot of trouble, and I lived like most people around me, just a day at a time, and whatever that give me instant gratification, that keep my mind occupied enough so that I don't think about the detrimental stage of that I'm in, and there's no future. My sentence essentially say that I will die in prison. This is where the last stop for me. And it's a very difficult concept to grab with that age and with that my mental development. There are other people that have a stronger will than I did. I didn't. I just didn't know how to deal with that, and I just dig deeper into avoiding and ignoring what internally wrong with me. And there are moments that things come up for me, such as guilt and shame. These type of strong emotion that accompany by the action I have taken, they do arise at certain time, but I learn to avoid and ignore them. What changed for me, it's about 13, 14 years later, when I was exposed to Buddhism. I started in California prison. Is very racially segregated. If you come in prison, if you are a Caucasian person, then you are classified as white. If you are African descent, then you classify as black. Hispanic, you are Hispanic. And if you are anything other than those three, you are considered other. So they don't even call you Asian, you are other. So any race under different those three, you under this category called other. So during classification, the officer will ask you, what group do you run with? Who do you identify with? And you have to say other. You don't say other, they will place you with other. And the culture is gang based. So on a yard, everything is divided by race. If you and other, you cannot work out in a black or a Hispanic or white workout area, and you kind of have to earn your way there. So there's a lot of racial conflict in prison. I share that because so I was an other, and I was an other that was elected to be a part of the inmate advisory council. So in prison, they would have a elected group of inmate to become a representative for that population. And I was a representative for the Asian or the other population. And with my mentality at that time, I wanted to establish a space where all the other can come, and so that we can hang out for security and just for so that we have our own space. This is leverage in prison politics. And we learned that at that time, there is no Buddhist services on the maximum security prison that I was in. And I learned by law that every religious group should have a religious service, as long as they have someone to lead the service. So in order to do that, I have to learn about Buddhism and become an inmate minister with very negative intention, as you can see. So yes, I started writing to sponsor outside and ask them, how can I take courses on Buddhism so that I can put a proposal and start a Buddhist religious group, which I was able to do, and I have all the others sign up. And we did establish a Buddhist service. But during the process of learning about Buddhism, I discovered how profoundly practical the teaching is. And it's directly beneficial to an individual like myself that have a very distorted mind, really confused about who I am as a person. And just, I don't want to live within myself. And I can contribute to all my negative behavior partially is because I don't want to live in myself. The reason I act recklessly, violently, and sometimes even immorally is because I don't want to live in myself. There's just too much unpleasant emotion that lie dormant in there. And whenever I close my eye, those things just show up. But in meditation, you have to sit with yourself. That is the first step. You have to sit with all those things that you want to avoid and run from. And I did that. I sat with it and I started to discover, this potential, this capacity to overcome shame and guilt, to become a new person in a way. And just the idea of not so much becoming a new person, it's just that I don't have to carry on all those things because those things are no longer my identity. They were the action that I have taken. And of course, they will be part of me because it relating to the world, it relating to other. But in essence, any moment I can transform myself into a new person, and that I can do good, and that I can bring light and positivity. And all those things that I have done or what I think about myself no longer can be a hindrance to my progress. These are the realization that I had. So when I started these Buddhist services, with all these guys coming in thinking that we're going to go in there and play pinochle, that we're going to kind of have day room time, I tell them, look, this is a great idea. We should sit down and just think and watch our thought. And they all look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, and no, we didn't sign up for that. We're not here to reflect and think. But when you tap into your inner strength, it's the most powerful thing. Because at that time, I find a will within myself to tell them, no, this is what I think we need. This is what I think we need. And I had support. So anyway, eventually half of the group broke up because they don't want to go in there and sit there and meditate. And, of course, at the end, I did have some conflict because of that, but I was very strong-willed about it. And so I think that was the beginning where I actually take that step over to the other side of the fence. I was still straddling the fence because I was on a level 4 maximum security prison, and those habitual patterns, the thinking, the behavior, is still applicable in my life at that time, and I have not been able to break free from that. So I was straddling the fence, and I was able to do that for a while. And then in 2015, the United States Supreme Court ruled that it's cruel and unusual punishment to sentence a child to life without possibility of parole, without giving him an opportunity to prove that he is real. I get emotional thinking about this, but to prove that he is rehabilitatable. And I get emotional because I'm not thinking about me. I'm thinking about all those juveniles that can be rehabilitated. I remember when that happened, I was in the SHU. I was in segregation housing unit. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not one of those juvenile. I look at all the history, all the things I have done. And again, that old voice, pessimistic voice, the self-limiting voice tell me, this law not for me. It's for all the other juvenile that came in prison and decide to turn their life over to God, turn their life over to their family, like find a purpose. And they transform their life from the beginning. I didn't do that. I was surviving. But I went back to court, and and they still reduced my sentence because of the Buddhist services I run, right? They didn't know that the Buddhist services that I did was for the gang. They're like, oh, this guy started a Buddhist service, And then again, that's why I feel a sense of being an imposter, is I'm getting credit for things that I'm not entirely intentionally do good for. So when my sentence got reduced to, I think, 45 years to life, I forgot how much it was. I came back to prison and I stopped straddling the fence. I stepped over to the other side. I faced some obstacle, but eventually I would transfer to a lower level because now my custody level changed. Before, they don't allow a life without a prisoner to be on a level 3 or level 2. So they transferred me to a level 3. That's where I started taking college courses. I joined the dog program. I started Buddhist services that is not only other or Asian. We have over 75 participants, Black, Hispanic, white, anyone that are interested in meditation. They come in and we all sat together. We figure it out together. And I just find this new sense of identity. And I facilitated every group there is. I run NA, AA, CGA, everything. And, I learned how to speak in front of people. I'm not embarrassed of my accents. I grew into a whole different person. I used to be that guy that, sit in the back of the classroom because I don't want to be called on. So now I intensely go to the front because I just want to be involved. And I'm still adjusting to the idea of being this person because I have just pulled back and forth. But to pastors, to move forward, I parole in 2020. My first parole board hearing, they find me suitable. And I remember when I went to my parole board hearing, I had prepared a lot to come in there and expect to get a denial because of my history. And before I went down there, I had a write-up. And I remember when I was telling my story, just like I'm telling you my story now, because at the parole board, when you come in, they're going to ask you, okay, tell me who you are. Tell me your story. They want you to give them a timeline of the behavior change and the thing that you have done that leads you to commit your crime. And I told them, as I was telling them my story, the commissioner, he say, he interrupt me in the middle of my story, and he say, "Why do you think you deserve a second chance when you're a victim then?" And I didn't know how to answer that. He just caught me by surprise, and I remember as much as you prep for this, you just don't know what's going to happen. And so when he asked me that question, I paused and I told him, Commissioner, I told him the person that came into prison deserved to be in prison. He was in danger to himself and others. But the person sitting in front of you here today is not that person anymore. And I just remember after I told him that, the energy in the room changed. And I say that honestly, because I see the changes that I made. I was confident enough to say that, because if I was still straddling the fence, I wouldn't be able to say that. So yeah, I was found suitable for parole. I paroled during the peak of pandemic in 2020. I come home, and now. I am working. I own my own business as a dog training business. I mainly work with rescue organization. I train dogs to get them adopted, and I hire. I have 2 employees. One of them is formerly incarcerated, and I hope to expand my business and not only hire incarcerated people, because of course we want to provide opportunity for others as well, but I would love to hire incarcerated trainer, because there's a whole different level of relatability with us in Rescue Dog. I'm a community coordinator for Boundless Freedom Project. It's a nonprofit organization that provide mindfulness and ethical teaching to people who are incarcerated, currently incarcerated or impacted by incarceration. And we operate about 11 different prisons, some in California. We are even in New York, in Riker Island. And Joanna on here is also one of the volunteers. And beside that, I go to the local juvenile hall here teaching a program called Cell Dog. So I teach the youth how to train dog and get the dog adopted and become service dog. And I also volunteer for a local nonprofit to help with reentry. So people coming home, trying to find a way to, especially people that serve a long time, how to navigate the world out here, which is nothing that I had imagined. I mean, when I came in prison, I was using a pager. And when I got out, well, my brother gave me a touch screen, and I'm just looking at it. It's just different than a pager. But I'm grateful to be where I am today, and work for organization like Boundless Freedom Project. That's where I met Neil, and just to be in this space with everyone here. And I'm looking at your face, and I'm thinking that you all have your own story. You all have your own history and how you get here. And I'm just grateful to be connected with you at this space. So thank you. I hope that I don't know if that's enough time, but thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Nut. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, we want to open it up to questions. We ask if you raise your electronic hand. If you don't know how to do that, you could wave your hand. But yeah, thanks for just acknowledging the opportunity you had to have a second chance. I am curious, and I don't know if I missed this before I take people's hands, but so they originally changed your sentence. Was it 45 to life? And then the law came in, or the law came in and that's what happened? And it,
So my original sentence was 3 consecutive life without parole, and they changed that to become 2 second-degree murder in California. Second-degree murder is 15 to life, and then attempted murder is another 15, so I think that's 30 something, and then they have all these other enhancement on top of it that add up to 40 something to life.
and then the law came in that you can't, that's cruel and unusual punishment. It was after that.
Well, the law came in before, so when I had life without parole, and I don't know how if this is important or not, but I'll just share for context. I originally had life without parole as an aider and abettor, which means I did not actually kill. I was part of the gang, and a fight happened, and the death occurred as the result of this fight, and I was involved in. In California law, I could be sentenced at equally as the perpetrator. That's what happened to me. When the law changed as a juvenile, you shouldn't get life without. That's a whole different law. That law in itself would have reduced my sentence to a 25 to life, and it will afford me the opportunity for parole. But I got my sentence reduced to a second-degree murder because additional law came out say that if you are not the actual killer, you should not have done first-degree murder. Or you, in some cases, I mean, my case would pick up by the Innocent Project, and so they still it's still pending. In some cases, you should not even get charged for murder at all. It just depends on the culpability of your action at that time.
Thank you. All right, I'll call on people. Thanks for explaining that. Ken?
Really, really moving, and congratulations. And so I think there may be 4 of us in the group here that have been incarcerated. I'm one of them. I wasn't incarcerated until I was in my mid-60s. So most of them don't have an experience of what most of us people here don't have an experience of what it's like to be incarcerated. They visit, but that's a whole different experience than actually being there. And so my question is, because part of what we do is educating, and I claim that if people really knew what went on inside the walls, that we wouldn't tolerate what goes on. So I hate to ask the question, but really, what is the worst thing that a CO did to you And what's the worst thing that you saw a CO do to another inmate? Because if we don't bring this into light and we don't ask this quietly and we don't talk about it, there's no way people are going to know what really happens. I was in a low, federal low. I can't imagine what it's like to be in a maximum. So that's my question: is what's the worst things you've seen or had done?
Yeah. Yeah, I can answer that question, I think. Um, yeah, so I have been beaten up by CO before. Um, when it's very common, and it's the mentality of a lot of us when we come in young, that is just like patch a passage to that lifestyle. When I come in, uh, our fear. I want to be a tough guy. I come in showing up as a tough guy, and they have planned for tough guy in prison. The CO have planned for them. In the county jail, in particularly in Orange County, very abusive. Um, so it's not something that uh, you know I talk about a lot, but it's there, and especially in the county that I'm in Orange County. In prison, yes, I have seen abuse by CO as well. I have been planting in myself that in the cell I have written up for and taken responsibility for that is not mine, um, because of the prison politic. Um, but I never look at it like it's an unjust thing. This is the sad part of this, and I think this is the point that is important. A lot of people in prison feel like they deserve this type of treatment because they are in prison, and so you don't go around uh, and protest and complain about it. It's almost kind of like a weak thing to. Is this idea of snitching also imply to snitching on correctional officer? Like if you want to handle that, you handle it in a violent way, and of course we do not want that. But I'm sharing you from a perspective of a distorted mind here, and a lot of people in prison have the distorted mind. And if something unjust happened to me, and I go to my cellmate, hey, this guy, the correctional officer did this to me. Should I file a report? And if my cellmate have the same distorted mind that I have, he will say, no, you do not file a report. You take it up on yourself. Here's a piece. You go do it.
Yep.
So it's either I'm going to take it because I don't feel brave enough to do it at that time, uh, and I just keep it in. So I'm talking about something that maybe a CO did that not as extreme, and it can be other cases that we can use our imagination to think as extreme, but yet it keep under the rug because the alternative is that.
Yep. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you.
Thank you, Nat. Really, really beautiful. Let's see. So you live in Orange County now, and you're muted.
Yes, I live in Orange County.
And may I ask what is your housing situation now? And you don't have to answer.
No, I can answer. I was just thinking. So I'm married. I'm married. I have two stepchild. I own two homes. I just
Wow.
bought a second home last year.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. The dog training. So I want to connect you with someone who would love some training with his Malinois. Do you have a website, or how do you
I
get?
do.
Okay, great.
I'll put a website here.
Will you put it in the chat? Thanks. And are you able to go back into prison? Have you gone back in?
Yes, so I work for a nonprofit called Marley Smut, and they have a program called the Positive Change Program. So the program is they take dog from high Q shelter, they pair them with incarcerated people, and basically help them to help rehabilitate each other. I was part of that program. Now I'm a trainer, a teacher. So I go into prison once a week, and I train those individual in the program to get the dog to pass canine good citizen certification and get the dog adopted.
Wonderful. Do you know Michael Todd?
I know of him.
Yeah, he knows of you too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know of him.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to Norco in the next month. I'm going to go there 3 times, and they are currently, there's a group I'm participating with. They're reading The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching. Yeah,
That's
great.
that's wonderful.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I call on Aku, I just wanted to ask people, especially if you came in a little bit later and you're associated, well, two things. If you're associated with any program or any prison, it would be great if you put your email in, and I could put our mailing list in the chat. That'll take me a minute or two. But in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind, if you're interested in hearing more talks, because we do this once a month, please share your email, and we'll give you time at the end. We'll take, we do go to the half an hour mark. Yeah, so if you could stay, that would be great. And I would like to hear from the people that didn't get a chance to introduce themselves at the end after we hear questions. We'll probably stop it at like a quarter after the hour. Okay, Aku?
Well, first and foremost, I really appreciate you sharing your story and your testimony, bro. It takes a lot of courage, man. I'm really honored to be, on this Zoom call with you. I just did a short stint in prison. I was only in there 23 months, so I wasn't there a long time, but I really appreciate your story and your dedication and commitment to transformation for your own self. And I know God is using you in a mighty way. So I'm from California as well. So I look forward to connecting with you, bro, when I come out there. I'll be out there in May. So I'm looking forward to grabbing a bite to eat,
Of course.
getting some good Vietnamese food, and eating good.
Yeah.
And,
I live in a place, it's the largest Vietnamese diaspora out of Vietnam, which is Orange County. Like they have to, yeah. My mom had been here for over 30 years and she barely speak English.
yeah,
She survived, so you can imagine.
I have a lot of lived in Minnesota for 20 years, so I have a lot of Hmong and Laos friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah. So and then I have some family in Thailand. So, of course, a different situation in different part of the world, but yeah. So my one question is, as far as your program, what are some things that you need in regards to support? Like, how can we support you and what you're doing? And the second thing is, like, are you looking for more opportunities to actually speak and things of that nature? So those are my two questions.
In terms of support, I think just the idea of us networking. I went to I attended the prison to partnership, and I really love the energy there. I was in a breakout room with a couple individual, and if I didn't attend, I wouldn't have met them, and they were amazing. So what I would invite everyone here, if you would like, we, Boundless Freedom Project, have a weekly Zoom meeting every Thursday from 6 to 7:30. And this Zoom meeting is the same program, the setup is the same as in every prison that we volunteer in. Mainly just create a space like this where we can come and we can meditate together. We can also hear each other's story and support each other. And it's every Thursday at 6:30 to 7:30 Pacific time. So please join us. You know, just come and meditate with us and make new friends. So in terms of support, I think that we can start there. Thank
Good.
you.
Why don't you put the link in the chat, how people could find it?
Yeah.
I will do that. You know.
It's a great space.
Do you think that if you'd never had to leave the country, your life would have been totally different?
Yeah. I think if I never left Vietnam, my life would have been different. You know, there were a time in my life where I ignorantly think that coming to America was the worst thing that can happen to me. That's what I thought, and I held a lot of prejudice. I held a lot of prejudice, but I overlooked the opportunity that a million of Vietnamese never had. Is coming to America, and you know it's what we make of it. Really, I choose the path that bring disgrace to my family. I'm saying at the beginning of my life here. But there are others that come here and establish a very good life for themselves, and that they're able to bring the fortune that they build here and benefit people in Vietnam. And that's where my mindset is. I'm grateful to be in this country for the opportunity it provided, and that I can make a difference despite of the path I have taken. If I was still in Vietnam, I don't know if I would be where I'm at today. I mean, today, now. I may have survived prison, but I can imagine there's a lot of suffering in Vietnam still. It's not a country like America.
Thank you. Thank you, Ned. I'd like to, well, people have more questions, please ask, but at the same time, I'd like, if it's
I
okay.
think Christine Reed has a question. She's
Oh, okay.
unmuted.
Hi, I want to thank you. Everything that you spoke has been so touching to hear your story. Like proud, honored to be with you. I have a psychology degree, and I've always thought that, it's like, what's my part in it? Like, what do I do? What do we do as a community to make our children feel um, loved? The things that would a child might go to a gang for, like as a community, what am I doing? Because I feel if our kids had that sense of community, if the kids felt loved, or like you spoke about, how your feelings, like as a kid, like I know my own feelings growing up, and even now, of things like that, I self-loathing, about myself, and then I, kind of snap myself out of it, but like, um, the raw humanity. Um, there's so many things I want to say, that that you're doing this dog training, is so beautiful. I had dog phobia. And then I did this landmark program and I had the most wonderful, we rescued a dog. It was really, he gave to like it was the most beautiful thing. It was like, he rescued me. I didn't rescue him, you know. Um so I love what you're doing with the dogs, and I was trying to write everything that to try to the main thing I'm thinking is that your story is like your life. You're such an inspiration that it's like, would you write a book? Would you do a podcast? Would you do something? Like, the world needs your story to make a difference. We fostered my niece and my nephew, and since they were babies, we helped them grow up. And my nephew has been in and out of jail a couple times for driving without a license. And he just got out, came back home, and he drove without a license again. So now he spent 6 months in jail. I mean, and so the impact on me, his son. So, I'm impacted in a different way, and I look at myself. What did I do wrong? How, you know, so anyway, I want to get to, like, what uh the difference that you make if you speak it to other people. And I'm guessing that, or the project that you were talking about, the Positive Change Project, that's where you're sharing this. I just feel like the world could really use you and your story, that people do not have to be restricted to the past, the things that have happened, that you can, it's like a rebirth, you can, people are not sentenced to that. And I know that people in jail have got to have all sorts of terrible feelings and thoughts about themselves, and the jail system cannot be making it any better, the way that it's set up. And I have nephews who are police officers, so have both, sides of it. But it's like we need to uh help people. My mother used to say that, don't criticize somebody, reach out your hand and help people up. And I don't feel like it's just like penalizing, punishing. Prison is not, it's not the answer. It's not. But thank you. It's really an honor to be with you. I'm so glad that I'm got on this call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to share? And I encourage, and Christine, how did you find the call? Who told you about it? You're muted.
Can you unmute?
And I'm friends. I've been in a group with Ivory, and I'm so grateful she told me about it. And when I couldn't get on, she said, "Give it up. You can get on. Figure it out." And I got, thanks, Ivory. And she invited me here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's really a privilege to be here.
Did you want to say something to her? I don't know. I hope I didn't interrupt.
Oh no, I'm just touched with what she shared, and yes, I do think that not just my story. I think everyone that have been incarcerated, that are home now, and that they are doing well and they are giving back, their story is just inspiring for people who are currently incarcerated. And I go into the juvenile hall every week, and this group of young people that I'm working with, they are facing life sentences. They are at the state of their life. They don't know what's going to happen.
Mm.
And it saddened. What saddened me the most is that they don't realize it. Like that, like you can see the innocence on their face, as if they don't realize the detriment of the situation they're in. And I know why, because I remember I was there. It's because that's the only way they can cope with it.
Mm.
That is the only way they can cope with it. and I was able to point that out to them, and I say, you know, when you're ready, really sit down and think about this. Ask yourself, what happened if instead of getting sentenced to life, what if you go to court the next court day and the court say, you know what, we're gonna give you a chance. We're gonna sentence you to a year or two, or you going home on probation. Really think about that. You know, because I think the reason why a lot of people uh, make repeated mistake because they never really sit down and think about it. For me, it had to take a really hard hit in my first prison term, and I had life without. I can imagine if I was sentenced to 3 year, 4 years, something like that. Um, I wouldn't figure it out. I didn't figure it out until like 13 years later when I was in there. I'm not advocating for long sentences. I'm advocating for helping people to really find themselves. You know, and meditation is the way. Meditation, group reflection, people that have been in this situation, having counseling with them, talk with them, encouraging them, and really paint a picture for them. You know, you don't have to walk on this path in order to gain this knowledge. You know, you can borrow knowledge from other people. You just need to believe it. And I think that's the part that we can definitely work on.
I'm not too
Compassion too, you know, like the compassion that, you know, I don't know, compassion. And every time I hear on the news, you know, a young kid or there's a shooting or thing, you know, and I think, oh my God, these kids, you know, like, and you just inspire me to want to do something to make a difference.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not too sure how to raise my hand, but I don't know if there's anyone else who has their hand up.
Well, yeah, you want to wait 1 minute? Siobhan, we'll call on you next.
Absolutely.
But there's Ivory has her hand up.
No,
Okay.
I'd like Siobhan to go first.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, Nut, thank you so much for what you shared. Man, you reminded me of when I was incarcerated, and it's funny because I talked to Neil, and I'm like, you know what? A lot of the time, a lot of what happened in prison, I actually kind of let go, kind of, um, but you know, to be honest, you talked about the younger people who are going and getting life sentences. And you know, a lot of people don't know the steps of what goes on in prison. Like, depending on your classification, determines if you can get any kind of help in prison. So, if you have an aggravated charge, you might not be able to take any classes. And I remember going in and for me, I remember I had made up my mind and said, you know what, I won't change immediately. Like, I don't want to even be going to prison, but since I'm here, I want to be able to work on myself. I think that was like my number one goal. And to find out that, hey, I can't take any classes. You know, you basically waiting for transfer in a dorm with other offenders, and you just sitting there for maybe 2 years in this one dorm. You can't get any help. You can't get any take any classes until you actually, transfer to a actual, like, either maximum unit. And then you might be able to put in for some classes that might take, here's another year, maybe, depending on how full those classes are, but you don't never really just get the help. And it's sad that the only thing that you are exposed to is violence. You have to protect yourself, like you was talking about. Um, around other people who are dealing with emotional distress and people who are having problems emotionally, you are in the midst of that, so you never really fully just get the help from the state or wherever maybe federal. I was in state. You don't get that. It's not healthy, and there's no development unless it's a self-development, maybe like you're reading a self-help book. Um, but as far as like putting in for and I'm telling you, I'm only speaking on this simply because maybe some of y'all don't know. Um, but the your help is limited, basically. But a lot of guys, they do like read self-help books and things like that. But back to Nut, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for the compassion and the accountability. Um I'm so glad I logged in on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Shevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Siobhan, how do you pronounce your name? Siobhan?
Shevin.
Shevin. Okay, Shevin. Not what I'd like you to, it's a request actually, and I don't know if you've done this or not. I don't know how well you know my brother. Do you know my brother's written a book? Neil has written a book.
I don't think Neil mentioned it. No.
Okay, it's important because he's writing another book. And when you said, the moment you said, and Siobhan also said the same thing, that you don't know what goes on inside, my sense is Neil can really have an impact by what he writes next if he divulges what goes on inside so that whoever reads it or kids read it can get a taste of what goes on inside, and maybe that would divert them. So Neil is in the process, and I might be speaking inappropriately, Neil, but this is what I'm thinking. Neil is in the process of looking what his next book really should be about. And from hearing what the two of you have said, I suspect the next book should really be about telling it all, divulging it, exposing it. So I'm inviting you to have a conversation with my brother about the difference he can make and the impact he can make if he talks more about the things that are not said. So that's my request.
Mm. Mm.
I agree.
And can I
I'll
can I
accept your request also.
mm.
Are you write, Kent? You're writing?
No, I will accept your request to talk to Neil.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. I also can I just had this idea, Nut, that if you wrote a book for people, like a path of what you did and what you discovered, how you did what you did, like that could be a wonderful book for people who are in prison to help them, get do what you did. And it might not be the same path, but that could be really, you could help them get what you got, you know.
And perhaps Neil can, excuse me, can be your ghostwriter. Just a thought.
Sorry to put all this on you. You should do this, you should do that. But I just what you how you've been being and all of this, I'm like, oh gosh, you can, I'm not, you're making a difference. And there's so many people who don't see, they don't know what you know I wish my nephew knew what you knew. I wish he could, I wish that for other people. So
Thank you.
mhm.
Is that Dana with the hand raised?
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
Yep,
Whoever
that's
has your
me.
hand raised, please speak.
I am one who has my hand raised, yes. I would have a question for Christine. Wait, let me see here. Is my name not up?
No, it says Judy.
Oh, wow. Oh, because I came through her link. That's why. Okay. I have a question for Christine. When you said that Neil is making a tremendous difference, I have it that if you could share
maybe one or two things in which he's making a difference. I have it that that'll make a huge difference in Neil's leadership and understanding why you come to these calls, all of us.
Neil is
No,
Aubrey, is it your brother or the other man who shared?
Neil is, I'm part of the Prison to Partnership team. Let me come off.
she was talking about Nut, Dana. So you got a little confused. Christine was talking about Nut to share a book. Now Ivory was talking about a book for me.
I just heard Christine say to partner with Neil, that your experience might be different and that you're making a tremendous difference. Is that what you said, Christine?
So what I was thinking was that the for people who were in prison, I'm just saying my nephew's been in prison and looks like he's going back. That the things that Nut learned and like how he evolved and transformed,
Mm.
that if that was available to other people in prison, like if everybody in prison had his story of how that could really like alter life. That's what I was speaking
Right.
to.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you. And Aku, would you want to
Yeah,
share?
I was gonna say, I just concur about the exposure. I know I'm working on my podcast, should be launching in June, and it's all about just helping people that have no understanding of incarceration, right? Like what goes on behind the scenes. Um, it's really almost, I consider the prisons, especially TDCJ, to be like its own country, its own government. Like, because there's no other way you can pass them inspections, especially in the kitchen with all the rats running around, and they pass with flying colors every year. So it has to be its own like separate country and entity going on for some of those things. So I agree with you guys. There needs to be some exposure, because if people were aware of what is going on, they'd be flabbergasted. Like, I mean, the amount of deaths that happen, this stuff is, you might get one death on the news out of thousands.
Wow.
Like, and I'm talking like within the first hour I was in Beto, somebody died.
Mm.
And I'm just like, wow, this is just a regular occurrence. It's not even like, it's just normal. It's almost like being in war. Like people are just dying. They're like, oh yeah, we need somebody to come and get this person. And we just keep going on. It's not been a big thing. So it's a lot of things going on. And the abuse, misuse. Texas, we're still fighting to have air conditioning in prisons.
Mm.
People are dying from the heat
Ugh.
all the time. So, anyways, I just wanted to chime in. I think that's a great idea.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Aku.
yeah.
Thank you. Kent?
So Aku kind of touched on it. There's also some people that are incarcerated that are happy to be incarcerated.
Mm.
That the problem with being incarcerated is you don't have to think. You're told what to do. And for some people, that's what they want, which is, for me, was really hard to grapple with, was that they just wanted to be told what to do. There was one man that had been there for 25 years and he was being released and he didn't want to be released because he was just so used to being told what to do and doing it. And so it's really up to people to have to start thinking about what, it takes all types of people. And my experience was I wanted to be out as quickly as possible. And so I agree that we need to do a lot to inform people but I just wanted to let you know that maybe that maybe your was it your brother-in-law or brother or whatever that he likes being in prison because there's some people that are already talking about coming back. Anyway,
You know,
thanks.
it's also too with the people. It's hard to keep a roof over, like, it's harder. There's more homeless people. If
Yeah,
somebody's in jail, they don't have to worry about, are they going to be able to have a roof, be homeless or have a roof over their head,
yeah,
you know?
and you get treated the way you get treated.
Mm.
Hmm. So before I call on the next person, I just want to ask, Deborah, how did you find us? Um, if that's okay.
It was through Tracy. Tracy
Okay.
asked me to join.
Do you work with people incarcerated or no?
I have in the past.
Okay.
I was part of the Resilient Voices, which was a program put on by the victim advocacy in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And as a speaker, I would go to different prison facilities and be a part of their impact of crime class. The Department of Corrections provided an impact of crime class, and I would speak at the appropriate time inside of their class, typically around homicides. And I also participated. They have a day of responsibility in the facilities in Pennsylvania, so I would be invited to speak in front of about 100 inmates and 50 staff and correctional officers.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think Debbie's in inquiry explorations. Is that correct?
I conduct the interviews for those who are a part of the Inquiry Explorations program.
Thank you.
That's a course that is in Landmark. For those who don't know, feel free to reach out and I could tell you more if you're interested. I'll put in my phone number. But go ahead with your hand raised. I don't know who that is.
So
Dana?
Right?
No, not you. I'm sorry. Somebody before you?
Yeah,
Just,
looks like that's Dana again.
no, Dana's name is now Dana.
no, it's me, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So just for the safety of the space, I just want to reiterate, like, cross talking on other people's comment shares should probably be minimized. And I would assert that no one chooses. It becomes a way of survival, the learned helplessness, and then not seeing any other way because of how hard resources and support are when they get out. So that would be the space I'd be speaking to, is that more services need to be provided for folks in reentry. And Newt, thank you very much for your share. Like, I got to be on a call with you a couple months ago with your group, and it was, man, I was just like blown away. That the power of meditation, right? And the healing that provides. So, and I would agree with some of the other people sharing that your story is really powerful, and there's a difference to be made, especially in your community, to show another path. So thank you for your talk today. It fulfilled on the intention I had for this to be a very inspirational and moving conversation, and it has been for me. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, Robert, and we encourage people to find organizations in your area. If you're interested in Prisons to Partnerships, you can, I said I'd put my number and I neglected to do that. You could contact me. I'll put it in now.
I put the link to our website in the
Yeah.
chat, and on the bottom of the page is as a sign up, and you know, and you can add comments if you want to get involved in this year's conference. As the planning chair for the conference, I'd love to have your assistance and participation, whatever that looks like. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. All right. Well, that seems to be about the end of our call. Oh, Aku, you want to say something? Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this last thing I would just want to say in regards to, the whole, what I find from a different perspective, with being in prison, some guys struggle with the transition because being in the free world, there's not as much respect and structure, right? And so a lot of the guys I talk to, that's their issue. Like they said, man, there's just so many things going on. People can say anything, they can do anything, and there's like no accountability and respect mutually. One of the things I really took away from prison is that equalizer as far as respect, right? And men being around each other. And if there's something goofy, it doesn't matter your race, you all get behind it and say, okay, yeah, we're not with that. We don't support that. Well, you see a lack of that. So sometimes that's a fear component because I've had to deal with that when I was inside. I'm like, man, some of these people, they just say and do anything and there's no accountability. So sometimes might want to gravitate to that environment because there's a system and there's a way of living that's kind of consistent in regards to that. Whereas out here, there's every role, every different corner got something going on. So,
Well, that opens up a whole nother conversation that I don't think we're going to have at this moment, but I might have it with you because I don't know if I completely agree, but that's but it's been a long time since I've been incarcerated. Well, thank you for being here, everybody, for participating, for showing up, Nud, especially to you, for sharing your story, being vulnerable, and getting in touch with all of it. Everybody, thank you so much. And that concludes our community gathering. And next month should be on April 14th, and you should hear something about that.
Thank you.
Before you close up, Mr. Vo, would you please tell us your first name because each of us has said it differently?
Yeah, my first name is Nhật.
Nhật.
Yeah,
Say it again.
Nhật.
Nhật, right? Okay.
It's hard to pronounce. I was called Peanut throughout grade school, so I mean it's
Oh my.
but thank you for asking.
Thank you.
So congratulations on being home, bro.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to end the call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for pulling
Good
this
night.
together.
Thank you, Ivory. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.